Hello. This video I will entitle The State of Corruption. And what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about some more of what's happened to me this year. And I would like to kind of highlight two other people that were involved that I've tried to help. As I spoke of in earlier videos, through some corrupt moves by the FBI and General Dynamics people, I was placed in the Connecticut Valley Hospital in January, which is it's a facility for the criminally insane. So they were my peers. I spent 110 days there before I was ultimately released. And during that time, doctors and the hospital attempted to gain a psychiatric diagnosis for myself. And try as they might, and they pulled every string to keep me there as long as possible. Ultimately, they failed, and anything that they tried to do was overruled in court. Now, I like to try to understand my place here in this life and in this world, and why I'm in certain positions. And during the time that I was there, shortly after I got there, I just felt that I was there for a specific purpose. And I still believe I was there for a specific purpose. And that purpose involved helping two people. The first, her name is Azanda, and a woman a few years younger than me, that I met shortly after arriving at Connecticut Valley Hospital. I found her to be an intelligent, attractive, and pleasant woman, and we spent time together walking and talking, and me seeking to understand her story and she mine. And as I did, in fact, shortly after I met her, I started suspecting that she was a stalking victim, organized stalking victim, and that electronics were used on her. And so I spent a lot of time listening, questioning, and the more time I spent doing so, I gained additional evidence to bolster my theory that that was indeed true. She didn't seem to have any psychiatric symptoms, other than she claimed that she heard voices. I asked her about when it began, and she described all of it. What seemed like this long interview process, and these new ones that were speaking wanted to know everything about her past and so forth. A data gathering, making her feel as though she had a nervous breakdown. I asked her, what's it like on an airplane? And she said, oh, it's so much worse. Really? Oh yeah, it's so much worse on an airplane. So I thought that was interesting, because when someone is following you with electronics and you're in a plane and it's still happening, it's because they are on the plane. And most likely they're sitting in the seat behind you. Otherwise they would be passing through other passengers, and they'd be affecting them too. Now often the people with this equipment don't realize that it passes through the victim, and it might be affecting a pilot. But the people that do this aren't generally all that bright, I've seen, I've come to see anyways. And so they don't think ahead like that, beyond the victim that they're pointing at. However, she said it was so much worse on an airplane. Well, that's because you're being hit point blank. She had cataracts, which I thought was a little odd for a woman her age. And of course, these are microwave devices. They put out a fairly strong field. And if someone is sitting right behind you in an airplane, they're probably pointing it right at your head. Evidenced by the fact that it's so much worse. And if they're pointing it right at your head, they're burning your eyes and your brain, giving you a strong risk for cancer, but certainly damaging your eyes, and it shows up first in the cornea, which is cataract formation, cornea damage. So that was another piece of evidence. And just the various things, the fact that she could speak with them and they would answer, the fact that they would often express concern that they weren't going to be able to follow her on a specific trip or something like that. Just many different things. And I talked to her at length. I saw no inconsistencies in things that she said and things that she spoke of that I had knowledge of. I saw where she seemed to be speaking from knowledge herself. I saw no signs of mental illness in her. That and the reason that she was there. She was there for 5 months. And she seemed just as bright and sharp and clear and as someone who was perfectly normal. The fact that she was there over a dispute in a price at Target, where she was shopping, and police were called. There was no violence. There was no reason for an arrest. But there was anyway. She was charged with I think trespassing, criminal trespass, something like that. Ultimately placed in Connecticut Valley Hospital because it was claimed that she was not competent to stand trial, and that needed to be restored. And in all the time that I spent with her, I saw her as a very bright human being, and certainly one who is competent and beyond competent to stand trial. So kind of ridiculous. And then 5 months. 5 months is a long time to be confined for such a minimal charge, and a charge that should have never come about in the first place. But these are the things that happen, and I've come to realize that the stalking world, the people who perpetrate this, appear to have often law enforcement on their side. That's how it seems. It seems they have pull within law enforcement and beyond. And I question, maybe sometimes they manipulate them also with electronics. So for many reasons, Azanda appeared as a target. The day before she left the hospital, I squared with her. I said, I need to go outside with you, let's talk. There's something I need to tell you. You see, I was sent there for my claim that this was happening to me. And I put that claim in writing. And there was evidence and all. But that's why I was sent to this place, a dreadful place. And so I was very careful about what I said there. I did not want to give them a reason to have anything to use against me. So I went outside with Azanda and I informed her. I told her I'm a member of a human rights organization called FFCHS, which stands for Freedom from Covert Harassment and Surveillance. And I am a victim of organized stalking. I explained to her the electronics that are used and every bit of it. And I said, I believe you are also a victim. I don't believe you're schizophrenic. You have one symptom, and that's that you're hearing speech. And someone claims that it's generated from within your mind. Well, I want to tell you, with this equipment, they can cause all kinds of mental health symptoms on top of symptoms of hearing voices. They can cause speech to be heard as if you had headphones on. It's projected right into your mind. It's a scientific, technological event, and it's not a mental illness. They can also simulate all kinds of other symptoms of mental illness: depression, anxiety, pain. They could cause someone to appear paranoid, and couple that up with all kinds of other effects. They can have a person believing they're mentally ill, and others around them as well. And I filled her in, and she seemed to very much accept what I had told her, and see it as it was indeed someone doing this to her. And we got along very well. In fact, we talked about getting together once we were both out, just having a reunion once in a while, getting together. And after I got out, I tried calling her. I've tried calling her a few times, leaving a message, and she's never gotten back to me. I suspect her stalkers heard and watched as I explained all to her, and are keeping her away from me because they don't want to lose her as a target, and they don't want her informed, because that could cause them to lose her as a target. And I suspect that's happened. And since then, I've been called a few times by a woman claiming it's her, but I know that it's not, and that's been sort of suspicious. I believe we'll cross paths again. I believe she was a big part of the reason that I was there. At the same time, the whole time I was there, I was being followed. The people on the other end of the surveillance equipment were in our General Dynamics, along with the FBI and DMHAS, Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, who operate Connecticut Valley Hospital, CVH. They had people on the other side also. And it was very clear, because things that I spoke in private in my room through the surveillance equipment, people responded to face. So it was very clear there were people on the other side hearing me, and it sounded like an investigation. And I believe to some degree it was. I just don't know how much. And I don't know how far it will go. I'll leave it at that. So that was my experience with Azanda. Now, the people, the FBI on the other end of the surveillance equipment, commented that they had identified her stalker, and they noted who it was. So I plan, when this is over, to hold them through that I want her released. I want it known that she has been and is being stalked, and who it is, and I want her at a minimum released. Beyond that, I would like that person criminally charged and arrested. But at a minimum released. I would like her released. A second person that I saw at Connecticut Valley Hospital, she arrived shortly after I did. So after spending time with Azanda, I began spending time with the second person. Her name is Stephanie. And I had met Stephanie in 2012. And so I recognized her, and I began talking to her, hearing her story. And the more I talked to her, I started seeing it in her also. Now, I remember in 2012, I was being stalked. I knew it. I was struggling with it, wrestling with it, trying to understand it, investigate it, so forth. I didn't tell Stephanie about it then, but when she was around me, it seemed like she was being affected. I thought maybe she was just being affected by the same people. Maybe, to push her away. I didn't know. So suddenly, in January of this year, she pops back into my life. And so I started spending time with her there, talking, listening to her story. And I started suspecting that she was also a victim. Now, there were a lot of people there that I talked to. People that appeared that they needed to be there. I'm not looking to find a victim of stalking in every one of them. Certainly not. Certainly not. There are people that truly have issues. And this is a place for the criminally insane. But Stephanie was different. I began seeing reasons as to why I thought she might also be a victim. And I saw what appeared to be manipulation while I was talking to her. And all the while, the people that are doing this to me, the FBI and Electric Boat, General Dynamics, are talking to me and talking in the background to each other. And when they heard that I believed Stephanie was also a victim, they were claimed to be checking into it. And later, they said that they identified that person, and that person was from Electric Boat, and they took that person off of her, and they replaced them with their own person. So it's still Stephanie being stalked by Electric Boat, but with the FBI now, and with maybe a more advanced computer connected, because they had someone right up there in Middletown on site that was providing all the computer support, stimulus, and all. So now, as I interact with Stephanie, she's still being affected, she's still being manipulated, sometimes worse. And they did an awful lot. They did an awful lot to, as if they were trying to give me the business. They saw that I cared that this human being was suffering, and I wanted to help her. And the more I wanted to help her, the more they seemed to want to make that difficult. The more they wanted to attack her. And they did. And they did. And at times, I realized that in my spending time with Stephanie, it was sometimes making it worse for her. And when I would back away and not be attending to her, I would notice that she would settle down some, but just appear very down and depressed, looking. And I would listen to the people on the other side of the surveillance equipment and realize that they're not even attending to her. They just have her set on depression, some degree of emotional pain, and just abandon her because they're paying attention to me and they want to hassle me. As if I'm some sort of a pet or something they're controlling. It's a very strange relationship. And they have not one bit of compassion. They don't care one bit that this person is suffering. And they just leave them to suffer. And then when I would attend to Stephanie, then they would try to make it worse. They would make her act out and all. And this type of equipment, it's so powerful. When put in a subliminal mode and they speak into it, the thought goes to a person and they don't hear it. It feels as if your own mind raised that thought. And since you've learned to trust your own mind, often that the person will say what it is that they want them to say. And they'll do what it is they want them to do, within reason. And so that couple that with emotion, and it feels like your own mind, your own body is driving the things that you're saying and doing. But when in fact, it's not. It's someone with a experimental, very powerful device that puts out a microwave signal and it couples to a person's central nervous system remotely and connects to a computer console. And they can cause all kinds of effects. Sometimes devastating effects. And the more capable they are, the more devastating they can be. And this is what I saw continually up there. And I did my best to try to persuade them to stop. For sure. As I did, I continued talking with Stephanie, wanting to help her. I saw the very same thing that I've seen in other stalking victims. What they try to do, what the stalkers try to do, is cause a person to come to the point where the people around them distance themselves. It's like they're like wolves chasing a flock, and they separate one out and they go in for the kill. And that's what they want to do. They want to take a person and get them separate. They want to destroy all relationships in their life. They want to knock them down, make them fail, and then watch them get back up. And before they get all the way up, they knock them down again. And they watch them get back up. And they document that. And every time they do that, it's worth money. I understand it's very lucrative. And anything that's illegal has more value because of that. And they continue to tear a person down and watch them get back up. And the targets that they like the most are the ones that are more resilient, the ones that are motivated, the ones that are intelligent, the very people that would be productive in life are the ones that they want to go after to destroy, because those are the ones that give them the most rich data. And that's the way they carry it out. So the person goes from failure to failure. They can't quite get their head above water, and then another failure. They don't want them to come to the place where they understand that this is happening to them. They want them to see themselves as a failure. They want them to believe they have mental illness. And then when they get pushed through the system like this, someone diagnoses them with mental illness. Their family believes it, their friends believe it. They want all their friends to lose faith in them. They want all their friends to distance themselves. They want all their friends to say, you know, things aren't looking good for her. Things aren't looking good for him. And I've tried to help, but I can't. They want the writing to be on the wall so that when they get to the point where they're not getting good data anymore and they don't want this person unwinding, they take them down hard. That's the phrase I've heard used by soundless people. Take them down hard. That's where you drive them into suicide. By then you've destroyed them so badly, they have nowhere to turn. All seems hopeless. They don't have hope of ever feeling good again. They've tried and tried, and all they do is fail. And then they kill them. They don't want them unwinding to be able to say what it was like. I heard last year from soundless people that they wanted, their management wanted me dead because they did not want me to be able to say what it was like. And that's one of the reasons I'm making these videos. As this goes on, I want to take away the very thing. I want to give them the thing that they're afraid of. Exposure. So what I see in this big picture, I go up to Connecticut Valley Hospital. I see and meet one person. I spend a lot of time there with her, and I'm assured as I can be that she's being stalked. And it's being done while she's there, which means her stalker is on site. The FBI met that person, noted who they were, and let it continue. As did the facility. I can only conclude that they allow that. And then I met Stephanie. Again, the FBI and the facility determined she was being stalked. They took that person off of her that was doing it, and they picked up the job themselves at the facility. So it appears that at Connecticut Valley Hospital, that they allow organized stalking at their facility, and they have a place where they can conduct this from unhindered by the staff or any authorities. And as I continued there, that's just what was happening to me. There appeared to be people on the other end of this, and they were listening to me the whole time. And I put out a lot of information. And they appeared to be taking notes and very interested. It seemed like some sort of a demonstration. And as I said, doctors talked to me face to face and mentioned things that I had said through the surveillance equipment, so I was sure that they were hearing me. A number of different people helped me confirm that. So I don't know what was happening there. I don't. But what I see overall causes me to question. Does Connecticut Valley Hospital and the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services support the use of electronic equipment at their facility by outsiders? Equipment that causes mental health symptoms and deteriorating mental health and a destructiveness in the victim's life. Do they allow that? Do they promote that? That's a question I have yet to answer. This type of equipment and this stalking is used for human research. Does DMHAS, the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, do they support human research at their facility? Again, a question I would like the answer to. So ultimately, I spent 110 days at Connecticut Valley Hospital, where doctors tried to give me a psychiatric diagnosis. Even one onlooker from the state, from the Connecticut Legal Rights Project, she looked at some of the paperwork. She says, someone is trying to give you a psychiatric diagnosis that you don't deserve. She says, I don't know you, but just looking at the words, there's something wrong here. And before it was over, I explained to her what was going on. She said again, I don't know you, but I've worked with a lot of people here. And you're different. You're the same every time I talk to you. And I see what's happened to you. I see the criminal charges that you have, that you've been to court close to 40 times. And it's 2015, and the arrests were from 2012, and you still don't have resolution. And look what they're doing to you here. So I question that quite possibly what you're telling me is believable. I appreciate her support. So the entire time I was there, I was attacked with pain, anxiety, depression, attacks to my eyes, attacks to my genitals, sleep deprivation, all while staff from DMHAS was aware, the FBI looked on, and General Dynamics people assisted. This is unconscionable, that I would have to endure that. Ultimately, and doctors failed at gaining me a psychiatric diagnosis. Anything that they wrote or tried to say was overruled in court, and a judge granted my release after 110 days. It resulted in absolutely nothing. I think it adds to my credibility with my case. The fact that I was confined and tormented for 110 days without producing symptoms of mental illness. And ultimately, the court could not find that the doctors made any reasonable case whatsoever to hold me. And so they had to release me. Since I was released, the whole thing followed me home. The stalking, those with the transducer that are pointing them at me, they followed me home. And that was in April. It's now later in October. It's September. So it's been quite a number of months. And day and night I am under surveillance. I have no privacy. I'm attacked with pain nearly all day long. Sometimes extreme pain. Anxiety, depression, tremor, taunting. It's as if those that are doing this are desperate for me to crack. It's as if those from Connecticut Valley Hospital, and it seems to be there's people associated with that hospital in this group, because many of them, I can hear them night and day. They comment on things I'm doing. They talk about things that I've done. They're familiar with all that happened to me there. They claim to be investigating. But what it is a continued and a continual attack on me. And it seems like lately they're desperate, as if they're desperate to get me to crack, or get me to die from a heart attack from so much pain. They deprive me of sleep, all that they've done before and more. I do sense desperation in them, and I'm doing all I can to hold them off. And I use electronics of my own to disrupt theirs, and it's something that I've been researching for a couple of years now, so it's in development. But I'm doing my best to try to hold them off. But it is very, very difficult. I have, since I got home, I wrote a certified letter to the chief of police, the first selectman in this town, demanding that he stop this, because the police know about this. They know that this is ongoing. I demanded that he stop this, and I've not heard from him at all. Not even a telephone call. Shortly after I arrived home, police came to my home, and they brought 2 people from DMHS with them. And it was obvious they were looking for any reason that there was something wrong with me. They parked on the other side of the trees, so I couldn't see their car. I happened to be on the radio tower on the roof, so I saw the whole thing. They asked me to come down. They needed to talk with me. They wanted to know how I was feeling, if there was anything wrong. I let them know I just got released by a judge. I had a clean bill of mental health. It was obvious they knew what I was up to, why I was on the radio tower, when I got out of Connecticut Valley Hospital. and it was obvious that they were looking for a reason to say I was a danger to myself or others, so that they could take me to the hospital for an emergency committal. I didn't give them that, and I told them that I want this investigated. I need an answer. My claim is the same as it was last year. Before I went to CVH, I've been evaluated for 110 days. I have a clean bill of mental health. I want an answer. I want this stopped. I didn't get much of a response. They left. I have not heard from them since. And this continues. Now, when in spending quite a bit of time with Stephanie at Connecticut Valley Hospital, as is often the case, as I mentioned, they tear somebody's life down. They have no one left in their life. People don't want to see them coming. They're hard to deal with. It's not because they're mentally ill. It's not because they're not smart. It's not because there's anything lacking in their character. It's because someone is destroying them from without, and it's intentional. I saw all this, and so I invited her into my home. When she got out, I brought her to my home and gave her a room here. I wanted to provide her a place where she could heal, and relax and understand what's happened to her and get beyond it. And I hoped I could help her do that. I had hoped that this investigation that was going on at Connecticut Valley Hospital with the FBI, I had hoped it would end, and that they would bring the stalking to an end. And I heard it several times, quite a number of times. The least they would say, I would hear them say, the least we could do is end this for Jeff before he leaves. But it didn't. It followed me home. And since Stephanie is here, they're continuing to assault her also. They attack her, and they're doing their best to keep her depressed. I can see when she's around me, they do their best to upset her. They want her to think that it's me that upsets her. Fortunately, over this past weekend, I dropped Stephanie off to take the train to New Haven. She had an event to attend for the weekend, and I don't believe they followed her. I believe they let her go because they're mainly interested in hassling me. From texting back and forth, I got the feeling that they were not bothering her, and I got up yesterday morning, I believe it was, yes, with it on my mind, and I said, I'm going to text her and tell her what's going on. And you're probably wondering, why haven't I told her yet? Well, what happens if you try to tell a person that this is ongoing? If the people on the other end are just partway skilled with subliminals, they'll stop that person from believing you. They'll further hurt them. They'll further cause that person to be upset with you, to think you're crazy. They'll do what they have to do. They've demonstrated this to me. They'll assault anyone in my path that they feel like assaulting. So I did not tell her, but they were causing such pain in her, and I could see it, and I didn't know what to do. What do I do? And I was afraid for her. In fact, I heard their own people on the other end say that they saw it as dangerous, what was being done to her. And that was several weeks ago. And that was a woman's voice. That they were creating a dangerous situation for her. But yet they're not made to stop. And I question why. Are they not made to stop because Stephanie's been identified as a victim and they want to take her down hard? Is that why they're putting her in situations, putting her in frames of mind and doing things to her that could be dangerous, and even their own people recognize that? I don't know. But I started becoming so concerned for her that I texted her yesterday and let her know. And I let her know that she needed to look back at her state of mind from when I dropped her off on the train to shortly after she was on the train and in New Haven, and see the difference. And I told her what can be done, some of it, and this is ongoing, and she is a human research victim for DOD. And I'm trying desperately to stop this for her. I'm trying to save her life. And I questioned her again, are you okay? And she texted back, happy, actually. And I could tell by some of the things she said, she seemed quite happy. And I know the feeling. When suddenly this lifts, I could see it in her words. I picked her up this morning at the train, and I could tell they started in on her again. They very arrogantly started in on her again, and that's why I'm doing this video. That's why I am doing this video. It has been my opinion that she's safer with me than anywhere else, because when this stops, for me, it has to stop for her, and I'm going to stop it by exposing them, disrupting them, doing all I can to bring this to an end. And if she were away from me, they might try to take her down hard to get it done and to collect the money for it, because the kill is worth good money when it comes to human research. I'm hoping that I'm right and that she's safer with me. I'm doing my best to assure that's true. I want to see her be the beautiful woman that she is. She's smart, she's motivated, attractive. She has an uplifting countenance. When she steps into the room, I watch people are uplifted. She's a very caring and considerate person. She cares for the people that she comes in contact with. A lot of really beautiful traits. And I want her to get a chance. So, electric boat, soundless. You have Navy people working with you, helping you. DMHAS, FBI, police. What's wrong with you? Why would you support this? Why would you want to support this? We all lose. What is wrong with you? You, the very people that should be defending the citizens of this state, are perpetrating a crime of terror against me and my loved ones. In a prior video, I ended by asking the question, when will the law be enforced? My question now is, who will enforce it? Thank you.